Hello everybody, hi, it's Sue Ricks here on the Reflexology Book Club. And first of all, I want to say a big thank you to Sally Kay for setting this up. What a great thing that Sally set up to facilitate this for so many, and I'm supremely grateful for that. So I'm going to be here talking to you for the next hour. And I also want to say an incredibly big thank you to my support team for various different reasons why today I've asked for a little bit of extra help. So I have got, any of you who came to the conference know that I have two amazing sons, to Paul and to David, who are supporting me today on doing this. I thank you so much. So I'm here today. I can see there's lots of people who are popping on. Oh, that's really nice to see that you're here. And I hope that you get something really nice and useful from this session. It's strange, isn't it, when you go live, how even if you've done it before, you can feel quite nervous, and I do. So I'm going to be talking to you about the Reflexology for Babies and Children book. And I'm also going to be talking to you about books, because I've done one or two. And I think that at this particular time, it's really important to have good things to occupy your mind. As those people who have been doing anything with me before know that one of my phrases is energy follows thought. So first of all, I want to send my love and blessings to everybody who is being touched by this, and we're all being touched by this situation, aren't we, at the moment with the COVID-19. So anybody who knows people who are being affected, I'm hoping that we'll be able to share some techniques as well today that might be able to help. And it's really important that we send our love, we send our blessings, and we keep our energy up. So this is an important time. Actually, I'm going to take one of my earpieces out so I can actually hear myself think. There we go. So it's a very important time for us to be able to pull together and support each other in every possible way. And it really reminded me of why I brought out my book, the Reflexology for Babies and Children book, because this originally was a book which was brought out actually for mummies and daddies and grannies and carers. Because when I first came into reflexology a very long time ago, it wasn't appropriate to use reflexology for children. Can you believe that now? But it was all about adults. And if you ever talked about reflexology and you talked about doing reflexology for children, there was a lot of no-nos about it. And I really, really was such a huge advocate of it. And I really wanted to make it available for working with babies and children. So this is our opportunity in this Reflexology Book Club to have a bit of a chat. So if you've got any questions that you want to ask about using reflexology for babies and children, and by that I do mean up to the age of about sort of 16, because it's covering all ages. So if there's anything in particular that you think that you might like to know, then feel free to pop up your questions, and I'll do my best to answer some of them. And if I don't answer them now, I promise I'll go back onto the feed later and I will answer the questions. You can also email me office@suericks.com. So I am going to be talking a little bit about using reflexology for babies and children. So, it's lovely to see lots of you. I can see Geraldine. Thank you, Geraldine. I loved your presentation. So thank you. There's so many names. And because I'm really dyslexic and I find it really difficult to speak on camera and to read it, I may miss some of your comments, but my support team will point out anything that I may have missed. So whether we're talking about working with little tiny feet and medium feet, and bigger feet, reflexology's got something to offer all of us. So I'm going to be talking about some of the different techniques that you can do. And somebody posted a lovely question about intention. I'm really sorry, I don't remember exactly the question, but I remember saying I'm definitely going to be covering intention, because when I first started using reflexology for babies and children, I think I naively thought, it was Anne. Thank you very much, Anne. So if I thought that if reflexologists were able to share techniques and myself as being a reflexologist could share techniques with mums which might help their children, I thought that that was what was going to be needed. And because I've been teaching reflexology for babies and children now for over 20 years, my teaching has changed very much. And I thought that it would be something which would be important to actually share with you, something that I really picked up, which is, it isn't so much, and I'm going to just show you one of my charts, it isn't so much about, knowing what the reflex points are and where to press them, and I'll come back to that later. It's a tremendous amount about actually being able to help whoever it is who might be doing the reflexology. And that might be you who's watching this now, or it might be you who's going to pass the information on to a stressed parent or grandparent or somebody who's caring for children. Because the incredible thing about working with children, and I'm talking about working, say, with all ages. I've worked in neonatal critical care units, I've worked in hospitals and hospices, and I've seen this in action absolutely everywhere. The most important thing is to make sure that we, whoever it is who's doing the techniques, is feeling okay. And it's not always easy to feel okay when you're not feeling okay. But children are the most amazing receptors, and they're like energy sponges, and they absolutely know whether you're okay or whether you're not okay. So I remember seeing on Facebook a thing that was supposed to be beautiful, but I didn't find it beautiful. And it was a video of a teeny tiny little one, feet this big, obviously just born, and I would expect it was probably in a critical care unit, and that somebody was very lovingly offering reflexology, and inside I was going, no, because the baby was exhibiting all the signs that it didn't want it. So it was scrunching up its toes, it was pulling, and you could actually hear the baby squeaking. Now, when it's done and you can check in with yourself and you can check in with the baby or the child or the teenager, and it's always led by them, you can't go wrong. And the difference is, if you try to do a reflex point and you go, right, okay, so I can see there's something wrong with you, and you think, oh, this reflex point will be really helpful here, I'll do it. If you just set about doing the reflexology in that way, it doesn't work, because the child has to want to receive it, and they are feeling your energy. So I'm going to demonstrate what I mean by that by using my little dinky foot. So one of the points that we all know in reflexology is the solar plexus. So where's my little foot chart? I shall find it here. Here we go. So there we go. Here's my little foot chart. Solar plexus being there. So that's here. If you go to press the reflex point, the child will almost certainly pull away, because they are feeling what I call the energy cloud around your thumb. Whereas if you're able to sit back, get yourself on what I call the love highway, make sure that you're in and down and settled, and just wait until you feel that you're okay and you're calm and you're peaceful and you're feeling nice. That word I wasn't allowed to use at school, but it's such a great word. And then you ask the child, however tiny they are, if it would be okay if you touch their feet, and then you just cradle their feet, and then move your thumb gently towards, see, I'm not actually touching, and you can feel whether they pull away. And if they pull away, they are in charge. They need to be in charge. They're always in charge. They have to be in charge, because you only get one chance to blow it. So if you do it and they don't like it, they're not going to put their foot back again and say, yeah, that's wonderful, can I have some more? So it is super important that you check in with you. Many years ago, I did some work which I'm hoping to share more of as time goes by, where I was actually looking at what's going on energetically around reflexology. And I use a system which was developed by the amazing Harry Oldfield, who has since passed away. And it was extraordinary because you could actually watch the energy around the practitioner, and you could see how that was changing according to their thoughts, and then how they then used their hands in the reflexes. So this is what babies are so good at. We just know that as energy sponges, they can tell. So it's always about the energy cloud around what you're approaching with, what type of energy is in that. If it's all about, right, you need reflexology and you're going to do it. Now, we as practitioners, we know how important it is. But if we are going to share the techniques with parents who are stressed, it's super important that they realise that. So as we approach this beautiful, beautiful area of delicateness, and it's what I call it the me-ness of me. It's that bit which is just, just here. We all know where that bit is. Can't quite see it, just there. And as that bit is the area which is our little toolbox, it's a bit, how do I manage? How do I cope? And part of what children are dealing with, and this is so true right now, because all children, well, not all children, but most children are at home with their parents right now. And if their parents are feeling super stressed, the children are going to be feeling that. And all of us who are parents, so, I'm being supported by my great boys. I know myself as a mum and as a nanny to my grandkids, that everybody's different according to how I am. So however each practitioner is, and however each parent or whoever else is watching and going to be doing this is. So when I started teaching, I decided that I was going to teach about baby reflexology, and then I changed my teaching completely, and then went, actually, let's learn, because I didn't know how to be okay when I'm not okay. And the reason I do what I do now is because over 38 years ago, I remember sitting in a hotel bedroom in Westendorf in Austria going, there's something wrong with me. I need to sort myself out. And my energy wasn't good. And I have spent 38 years, and probably a lot more before that as well, but purposefully 38 years, checking in with me, learning about things, going to mentors, trainers, tutors, learning, reading books, going to visit people, going on courses, going to conferences, being on webinars. I absolutely love learning new tips and tricks. And I was on a webinar last night and learnt some new things. So the more that we can learn how to use the tools in our toolbox, the more that we can learn how to be able to manage and respond. And when I'm teaching about baby reflexology, one of the things that I wanted to talk about is how important it is that we're trying to address questions that are being raised by their parents as well. So we're not just treating the child, we're also interfacing with the children. I can see, Nikki, you've asked about children with OCD, and I will come to that. And if I don't, come back to me. Because part of what we're dealing with is both the child and the parent. So we've got two lots of energy in the room, plus you, that's three. Right? Or maybe you're just working with your own children at home right now, in which case I send you my love, because this is a very precious time. People are connecting with their children in a way they've never done before. So let's just talk about this point here with solar plexus, because for you, Nikki, if children have got OCD, for all of you who are working and who want to be able to support children who have levels of anxiety, all children now know what's going on in the world. Right, they will hopefully be well supported, but there may be still an element of anxiety. Some children are feeling a bit withdrawn, a bit depressed. Some children are a bit flying off the wall. Some children don't know what to do with their energy. That's why this is such a great point. So I'm going to talk to you about how to do it in terms of gentle touch reflexology. And I can only talk about gentle touch reflexology because that's the thing that I'm so involved in. But I also am a huge fan of reflexology, and I call it the rainbow of reflexology, because there are so many different techniques and all of them are valid, all of them. There's no right, there's no wrong. There's just different techniques to use at different times with different people according to what you want to do. Gentle Touch Reflexology is absolutely right for me, and for some of you who are here, I absolutely know. Oh, Laura, you love learning too. That's wonderful. So when we're talking about gentle touch reflexology, and it might be like Shona said, what's the difference between gentle touch reflexology and precision reflexology? Well, I practice and teach gentle touch reflexology, so I know about that. And Jan Williamson teaches precision reflexology. So what we'll do maybe one day is we'll get both of us here and we'll have a chat. How about that? Right. They're both, and fantastically, Jan came to the UK Reflexology Conference. And any of you who are on this call who remembers the UK Reflexology Conference, was that not incredible that Jan, who was completely snowed in her cottage in Cornwall, managed to arrive within moments of the time that she was due to speak? So how meant to be was that? So congratulations to Jan if you ever get a chance to watch this. So Jan works very vibrationally and energetically, and gentle touch reflexology is vibrational and energetic. The way that they're done are very similar, but they're different, and the methodology behind the scenes is similar, it's slightly different. And I always encourage everybody to explore whatever technique that you fancy. In my world, there's a lot of things in reflexology, isn't there, about shoulds. Yeah, oh, I should learn this technique and I should learn that technique and I should learn the other technique. No, trust your instincts, trust your guidance, learn the technique that is right for you. Oh, hi from Belgium. Oh, lovely to see you, Dorothea. How lovely. So this lovely point is so super special. So remember, it's the energy cloud around your thumb, which is going to go towards the solar plexus, and we're actually going to do it. Now I'm going to introduce you to little Francine. Yeah, so Francine, who doesn't want to just face the camera, probably a bit shy like me. So Francine, who came from France, she has these lovely marked little feet, and I wanted to use her. So we're actually going to do the reflex points actually on both feet. Now, when you want to watch the reality of this, if you want to do more, I've only got 1 hour. I could talk to you for my full course is a 4-day course. I could talk to you about this for ages. However, I have made sure that there's an absolute ton of this information, and it's real and it's live and it's on Live Children, and there's loads of other information which is on my academy. So, and it's all free for the first month as well. So if you want to watch this actually on a little baby, the little baby that I'm working on at one point is called Ben. And if you go to Sue Ricks, I don't know, to get the address right, SueRicks.com/academy. I will put that in the comments in this stream later. So SueRicks.com/academy, and go through the information that you fill in, and then put in the code HEALTHY. I thought that was good because it's virus time. HEALTHY. I have to close my eyes, I'm dyslexic. You'll be able to see these techniques in huge detail, real big detail. So, and all of my books, so all of these books are also on the academy. So this reflex area, which we're going to do, so you've got the energy of your thumb, which is the energy of you. So how are you feeling? Are you on the love highway? Are you what I call in and down? Right. Then if you put your thumb and bring it in very gently, and you're going to do it actually, and it's difficult for me to show you like that, but you're going to be doing it right with your feet, and you can't see. There you go. So I've got my poor Francine upside down, which is not very good. So you're going to do both at the same time, and you're going to feel, and I mean really feel, that child's connection to whether they want it or you don't. Now, if you are a reflexologist watching this and your training is about you do it 2 or 3 times, or you watch their breathing or whatever, absolutely great, brilliant techniques. When you're working with children, my advice is let the child lead it every time. So as you take your thumbs in, you are working towards, and you're just sensing, does this child want this offering or not? Now, I can't tell you what it feels like because it will feel like what it feels like for you. What I can say to you is just keep in your head the word curious, to be curious as to whether the child wants it or not. It's not, you should have this will do you good. That never works. And if they don't want it today, maybe they might want it tomorrow, or maybe they want it in 20 minutes time, or when they've had a fidget. Yeah? So you offer your thumbs towards that solar plexus, right, and you check in with them and you see if they like it. And if they do, and they're settled and they're calm, isn't that lovely? Now, I have seen some staggering things happen with these techniques. It's never too, they're never too young for you to be able to practice. In fact, my very, 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 very first experience of reflexology was one I didn't even know I'd had. And it was when my eldest son was born, and we'd had a bit of a rocky time. And he was tired and I was tired. And they were saying that if he hadn't fed, he would have to go to special care baby unit. I now work there. So that's something which I knew was, but they were saying he needs to feed. But he was tired, and he's still the same now. He needs to sleep when he needs to sleep. And so I was holding him in the middle of the night, and at some point this beautiful lady came in and she put her arm around me and she said, "We found that if you rub their feet, it sometimes brings them on." So I sat rubbing his big little feet, willing him to come on. Yeah. And then I was like, I just need to let him so I just literally just stroked. So the best thing you can do with children is just stroke their feet, stroke their hands. It doesn't have to be just the feet. Anyway, the good news is that he decided to feed, had a huge another sleep, and that worked out really well. So what I want to say is, every time you do any technique, please follow the baby. Please follow what that is. And follow what they're saying that they're happy for you to do. So if you've got a toddler and they're interested, they're interested. If they're not interested and they want to run off, that's absolutely great too. I can see all these lovely comments from people all over the place in Canada and America, and I can see that there's Jan here. So lovely. I can see a nice comment here about training in reflexology. There's a huge gap after therapy and when trained, how to get support. Yeah, definitely. If people want to give a bit more information, I can't quite just see the top of that one about Google Docs. Oh, this is Antoinette. Oh, hi, Antoinette. Wanted to reach out to you and tell you you're creating a book. There's also, if you want to fill in that what Antoinette's put on there, wanting to be able to help newly formed reflexologists. And I also want to tell you, Antoinette, as well, look out for Jane Sheehan's book. She has a brilliant book about getting going once you're qualified as well. So check out Jane's book. So fantastic to be talking to you earlier, Antoinette. Thank you for messaging. So here's Leslie. I've been giving my 3 daughters treatment since lockdown. They love it. One in particular just soaks it up and melts away, and she has a lot of anxieties. I love being able to help me in this way. Oh, isn't that lovely? I'm so thrilled that you're finding it useful. And when you're at home with your children, there's nothing better than doing a baby or child reflexology. So I was going to show you one that we can go down on the spinal reflexes. So she reaching out and reaching. So we've got the hand reflexology ones that you can do. So you can work onto the solar plexus there, or you can go down. Oh, there's my finger here. You can go down the spinal reflexes down the hand. Showing where I was going to put all these things. Right, and then on the feet you can go down the spine here. Now I'm going to show you something really good to do, and also particularly here on the sacroiliac joint. So where's my little foot gone? Here it is. So in Gentle Touch Reflexology, it's really, I love the fact, I mean, I've been watching and around reflexologists for so many years. One of the things that I'm really grateful for is in Gentle Touch Reflexology is that we don't have to do that lift your shoulder thing and then start working the reflexes, because you just stay so comfortable, so relaxed, and so in your own place and space. It's not about trying to do the treatment and trying to do it right. It's about being in us and getting a huge sense of what's required here. So when you're working with children, you're going to do exactly the same. So even if you were working a 16-year-old, who's having a bit of a stress time because they're desperate to go out and can't go out at the moment, or whether it's later on, whether it's exam times, you'll work in a very similar way. But I'm going to use my little foot because it's easier to see on the screen. So we're just going to just really, really gently just work down, and I call this a bit like compare and contrast. Yeah, so you're comparing, you're contrasting, you're just checking in, you're just feeling all the way down, and then just soothe. Can you see there's no pressure? Absolutely no pressure at all. It's absolutely gorgeous to do. And then you do another little check in, and you do that sort of compare and contrast, and just feel the differences, and just feel as you're working down. And it's very sensing as opposed to pushing and feeling. When I came into reflexology, my first reflexology treatments were very much more forceful. And I've been working all over the world, and I've been to all the conferences, and I've seen so many techniques. I think the firmest technique that I've ever had was when I was with Father Joseph and his team in Taiwan. I think that was probably the biggest pressurized one, and we're using one of those beautiful it's like a sort of a carved stick, and I cried. It hurt. I know it was doing me good though. So I love Gentle Touch Reflexology because I don't have to hurt people, and it proper works. Don't think that's very good grammar, but it absolutely works. So as you work down, what I'm going to say to you is that when you're working with teeny tiny tots, sometimes when they're born and they've gone through all that compression of being born, it's amazing thing. Oh, I can see Tunde. Hi, Tunde. Worked on my niece who's in the room. Need to say my niece is more receptive than my nephew. I also worked on my niece when she's 3 days old, and the energy was beautiful. How fabulous. It's the energy. Children are so energetic, yeah, and it makes such a difference. So one example that I often give is two friends of mine, their daughters had babies within 2 days of each other. And one of the ladies just absolutely sailed through her birthing process. Baby was born beautifully, happy, relaxed, able to feed. And one of the mummies went through the most traumatic time, and it was horrible. So some weeks after that, I invited both of these beautiful girls to come to one of my baby reflexology classes, and they both beautifully came. So the first lady came, she'd had a very easy time with the birth, her baby's happy and relaxed. It doesn't always correlate, but in this case it was. And we were working, and this is exactly what we were doing, just going very, very gently down. So this is what you would be doing on Francine. Yeah. So you'd just be going very gently down. And because your fingers are huge, aren't they, in comparison to baby feet? Yeah, but it still works. But when we came to the other mummy, who'd had a very difficult time, as I went to work down her feet, I was doing this, and then she started to pull away. So I have to follow her lead because she's in charge. She needs to be in charge, and she needs to know that I will listen to her, and I will respond to her, and I will honour her, because every single one of us has been pushed and shoved and shuddered and you ordered, and that's when it's compromised. Whereas if a child knows that that person who's doing the reflexology will listen, will respond, will honour, and will back off if necessary, the child can then relax. And that's as true for a 3-day-old as it is for a 3-year-old, as it is for a 30-year-old. It's really important that we honour that. So as I was going down, so if I'm going here, so I've got my hand, so I was working there, and then I started working out here. So I was like in the air, and she was okay. But when I got down to level with the sacroiliac area, just there, when I got level to sacroiliac, I was literally having to work out here, Now, I know those of you who aren't into energy will go, well, it's ridiculous, you're not even touching. So at this point, I will just say that when I came into reflexology, it was extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. I'm the last person you could ever have thought that I would get involved, because my parents had come from a very, if you can't prove it and etc. background. They weren't into anything like this. We're talking nearly 40 years ago. And nobody would have had any appreciation or understanding about reflexology because they'd never even heard it. So when we actually got the chance to be able to do some reflexology, I've just lost my thread just for a moment. Let me just think what my thread was. Let me just think, what was I just saying about? I remember thinking about working with this little one. Oh yes, energy, that's right. So when I first got into reflexology, it was as a result of my mum, who'd got some health challenges, and she went to see somebody who said, I think you need to have reflexology. Well, that was completely out of it from my mum's point of view, but fortunately Dad persuaded Mum to go and have some reflexology. So thanks, Dad, for all my careers in reflexology. That's a poignant thing for me to say today. And so when you're working energetically, right, there's a big connection, because my first connection to reflexology was actually about big time pressing reflexology, but I am very energetically aware. And my first reflexologist, who used the Ingham method of reflexology and used to proper press into my feet, also said to me, Sue, you need to remember that we all can feel energy, even then we don't know that we can feel it. And so I, strangely enough, actually got involved in just regular healing, not Reiki or anything, got involved in regular healing. So my journeys come through from reflexology and from regular healing, and from just being able to just sense. I remember once going to Warwick Castle, and we were with my kids, and my mum wanted us to go down into the cellars and the dungeons, and my eldest son was like spread eagled across the door going, I'm not going to go, I'm not going to go. And it's so important that he could feel it, I could feel it, but my mum couldn't feel it because she wasn't a feeler in that sort of way. So if you are a sensitive and you think you sense things, it's super, super important that you follow your sensing. Always make sure that the child takes the lead. So when I was working down through this little one and I was checking what was going on, she was telling me, I'm okay here, but not okay. And then I'm gradually moving my fingers away. So I was here and I just literally held my finger, and here comes the wacky stuff. I imagined I was switching on my light lasers, and the whole of her little body went. She just completely flopped in that way. It was so moving, so moving. And in that precise moment, the doorbell went. So I stopped what I was doing, went to the door, and there was this baby's daddy. Have you got my wife and daughter here? I have. Obviously, it's somebody I know. So he came in, and I was showing him what to do. And I was showing, and I showed him what to do, go as far down, just feel, and then let the baby tell you, because if they twitch and they judder, right, or they pull away, that's it, they don't want it, right? So I showed him what to do, and he became an absolute expert at it. And when they had their second child, well done, mummy, when you've been through that, having a second child, right, then daddy was the one who was brilliant at doing that. So it's a super, super beautiful thing to be able to do by going down here, either by working or just stroke it. I mean, look at that. Imagine somebody was just actually just going, let me just see if we can do something just to soothe you, right? Just try it. Those of you who are watching, if you can do it, give this a go. It's a lovely thing to do, right? Just pop your hands onto here, onto the side of your hands. Just go down and feel very, very lightly, and then you can shut your eyes for a moment, yeah, and just stroke it. Does that feel nice? Yes, you can do it this way round as well. Does it feel nice? And when things feel nice and they do you good, your central nervous system has time to relax. I always say it's a central system. It's also your central nervous system. Yeah? So anything that you can do to soothe your central nervous system, then that's one. And it's a beautiful thing to do. So you can do it onto, come on then, Francine's going to come and join me again now. Yeah. So you can do this with children. Yeah. And you can just literally just stroke and just soothe it. Yeah. As you can just smooth on the head. Yeah. Right. We just go down the thumb or on the feet. It is just absolutely gorgeous, right? So that solar plexus is very much about making that lovely offering and just sense. And then people say, well, and because your head kicks in and it needs to know a plan, it's like, well, how many seconds do I hold it for? Or how many breaths do I hold it for? And I know it drives people bonkers when I go, you hold it for as long as you hold it. And then they go, well, how do you know when to come out? And I go, you come out when you come out. And sometimes you found, so if you're working on a different size foot, yeah, right, sometimes you'll find that you're there and maybe there's like a resistance, so you stop, and maybe that resistance suddenly like disappears, so then you can just move in that little bit further, and then all of a sudden you find you're coming out. Yeah, so I had this other phrase, which is, if you don't know what you're doing, yeah, just tell your brain, I'm going to pretend I know what I'm doing and I'm going to follow that. The beautiful thing is I've worked for so many years now with babies and children, say over 30 years. I can tell you that when you follow that inner knowing with children, yeah, they know what they need. When you follow that lead, they will tell you. Yeah? When you quieten yourself and you calm yourself, you will find that that is the way to be able to take that way forward, take it forward for them, because they lead it. You can't get it wrong, yeah? Which is wonderful. So if you're going to be doing some work, I'm going to be using this bigger foot now because it's a bit easier. Maybe we're talking about children who have got, well, here's Sharon. Hi, Sharon. It's amazing how you can feel how sensitive spots can be with hardly any touch, right? That is so true. I remember when I was teaching, and this was with you, wasn't it, Sharon, when we were in Canada and I was teaching. I'm very used to people saying, well, it can't work because I'm not using the pressure and I won't feel anything and I won't find anything. I promise you, just suspend your brain for a while. You do feel, you do know, you will have that sensitivity to know. So I was going to go through a little bit. I was trying to think what might be the most useful things at the moment. Yeah, if we're going to do the reflex points for the sinuses, yeah, and also for teeth. So the reflex point for the sinuses, I think we're probably all fairly familiar with this, aren't we? Yeah. So the reflex points for the sinuses, yeah. But an easy way that you can work with children when they've got tiny feet is just to stroke it down. Very simply, just stroke it. You know, bath time, bedtime, sitting with them on the sofa, just stroke it down. Doesn't need to be funky or fancy. Yeah, just literally just stroke the toes down. It's really nice and easy. You can do exactly the same on the hands. Yeah, just touch the sinus reflexes and then just down. Just stroke it down. So here you go. Here's Francine. She's got tiny little hands. Yeah. Yeah. So just little fingers and then just stroke, little at the top and then just stroke, and you can take it all the way down. Somebody's asking, where did you get the rubber feet? I've had my little rubber feet for a long time. I think you can, if you talk to Katrina at Golden Egg, I think she might have some. We can put some links up when we know. You can share that within the book group. Hi Spiros from Greece, how lovely to see you. Didn't we have some fun when we did the foot reading conference? That was amazing. You did a fantastic talk. Right, so when you're going to go down on the hands, yeah, you're going to put just a little bit down there and a little bit into the solar plexus and then a little bit into the sinuses. And if you want to know a little bit more detail, remember all this information is actually in all of my book. So I flagged up a couple of bits and pieces in here because this is really detailed. I wanted to be able to change this so I expanded it, and it's got bigger and bigger, and there's loads and loads. I don't know whether you can see, but there's loads and loads and loads of information in here about reflexology, lots of pictures and etc. And I just needed to say, here's my beautiful grandchildren. Aren't they gorgeous? I use a chair when people say, where do you treat? So I have the children sitting in the chair, but I also might do that with the babies sitting on the mum's laps. And then very often there was another picture just somewhere here, which I can see somewhere. Yeah, so here's one of the mummies I was showing how to do that, just doing the work on her baby, on her little one. Some of you who've been to the conference will remember Helen. Do you remember Helen? Here she is with her baby. And then there are certain reflex points that I've picked out. So if I'm not talking today about certain things, so in the book here, it's got the different conditions and which reflex points you might be able to. Oh, somebody's put the link up for Golden Egg Holistic. Thank you very much. Right, so if you're wanting to work the reflex points for ears, if they've got eczema, they've got tummy troubles, vomiting, sinus congestion, sleep issues, it's all in here. Now the full detail is also here, and I go through all of this on the courses as well. There's lots of information in the academy. So if this is something that you want to know more about, there's lots of information in there. There's also lots of information also on the DVDs as well. And this is my youngest grandson, who was going to be on earlier on, going to be in the behind the scenes watching what was happening with Nanny doing the talk. So I thought I'd just give a little bit of a chat before we go into some of the other questions about books, because I personally, I think I'm just going to make it a bit personal just for a minute, because I do think it's quite unbelievable that I've actually brought out some books, and I look back and think, I can't believe I've done that, because as a child I was so dyslexic and had such a problem with English and all that sort of thing, that I don't think that I thought that it was at all possible for me to be able to write anything at all, let alone a book. And I just want to leave that one with you. So if you think, oh, I'd never be able to bring out a book, I agree with you. I'd never be able to bring out a book. Well, I've done 4 and there's another 2 in the pipeline. So oh, hi Susan, hi, you got that one as well as the DVD. That's lovely. So if you've got, there's a reason why I'm saying this. There's a lot of different things at the moment that are going on, and people thinking about the important things in life. What if you've got a book burning away inside you and you never actually did it, and there's something that you want to do, that, there's something or you've had a life experience, or you've got a novel inside you, or whatever it is. Susan Quayle's done the most beautiful books about baby reflexology and child reflexology, and she's made it a story, and she's got such a fabulous range of books which have flowed out of her as stories. Yeah, how fantastic is that? Yeah, mine's much more of a practical manual on various different things, and you can get things from hers. I put some of the books out here. So Geraldine, she talked about her book, didn't she? And this is Geraldine's life and her learnings. I've got Sally's book here. Yeah. Now, one of the things I wanted to point out about that is, very simply, look at them. They're different size books. Yeah. So you can choose what size book you want. Yeah. What have I got here? I've got Christine Stormer's book here. Right. And I've got Moshe's. I might just lose you off the screen now. Right. Here's Moshe's book, completely different shape and size. Right. Now, when I brought out my first book, look how tiny that is. Yeah, can you see? Oops, see how tiny that is? And the publisher said, you've got to make it bigger. Now, anybody who's done any work with me will know that my theme is energy follows thought. Now, when I was struggling All right, this is brilliant for children, because if we knew the content of this, if I'd have known this, I wouldn't have gone through all my years of trauma. Right? It's just so incredible just to know that. And I knew that if I made this any bigger, I would dilute the message. But it's got pictures in it. It's got some. I've just flagged up the self-help bit in it. Right, so you can make it where people can fill in the answers. You can give them information. There's a picture here which I've just seen. This is one of my boys splashing in the pool, and we're talking about the technique about how to get on the love highway. Right, so you don't need to think about books being huge. It's not a big book, but this book has been everywhere. Absolutely, it's all over the world, and I call it my travelling book, because it's called 3 Steps to Enjoying Life. And this one book, each time one person has this book, right, it has the potential to go out and help a lot of people. Right, so you might have something inside you and you think, oh, I don't know that that's okay for a book. Well, go ahead. I don't know how many of you people have seen this book. So this is my latest book. Where is it there? Emotion. Yeah, Energy in Motion, Messages of the Body. Yeah. And again, this is a little book, but it's not quite as little as that one. Yeah, but it's a little book. And inside it, and this came about thanks very much to my lovely friend Debbie. All right, and it's all about love, and it's about the meaning of the messages that our body is giving. And as we move on, so what does the pancreas mean? What does elbow mean? What does shoulder mean? What do ribs mean? What do ankles mean? Yeah, so it's got all of those in it, but they're not huge. Yeah, so if you want to write something, right, then it's all there for you. And I see that Tundi's written. Sally's written. I'm going to come back to Tundi in a minute. Sally's written. I totally understand the feeling about never being able to write a book. I felt the same, and it took me 7 years. And thankfully, we're able to overcome this self-doubt and feel the fear and do it anyway. Susan Jeffers, feel the fear, do it anyway. And this is such. This is Debbie, who, when I was walking around where we were with her beautiful dogs. And we were talking about this, and we used to talk about it every time I went to stay. And she eventually went, Sue, just write it, right? And even though I'd brought out 3 other books, I was like, oh. Anyway, eventually I absolutely did it. So, Tundi, what prompted you to write your books? Everything that I do because I hope it will help someone in the way that I would have loved the help at the beginning. So as a mum, so the 3 Steps to Enjoying Life, which is where I started, where have I put it? 3 Steps to Enjoying Life. This is, people used to say to me, oh, for goodness sake, pull your socks up. Yeah. Oh, stop being so emotional, and all kinds of things. And I'm going to be really honest here. I just wanted to smack them. And I'm not that sort of person. But then I taught myself how to get to be the person I am now. And all I do is follow this, yeah, and some of the other easy peasy things. Those of you who know about Squeeze Your Bum, all on the Academy. And that's why I did that first book. It's like, just do that. And that's what I go through with everybody who comes. Just do that. Nothing else. Just do that. Yeah. Concentrate on what makes the difference. Right. And then the next one that I did, as I told you, was the Reflexology for Babies and Children book. Now that started out as a much smaller book, and then I kept thinking, I want to add more and more. So one of the things that's in here, because some of you know and some of you don't, but I'm also a feng shui consultant. Yeah. Whoops, there you go. So that's some feng shui about bed placement. So if you've got children who can't sleep, or if you can't sleep, yeah, there's some quite good stuff in here about that as well. So I put loads and loads of stuff in it, and it's got photographs and all sorts. And so that book grew into a much, much bigger book. So this is literally all over the world. And I did it because as a mum, I didn't find it easy. I wished I had had a book that said you can. So my younger son used to get terrible earaches, terrible. Yeah, he's very sensitive to dairy. Right, one of the biggest reasons why people have problems. But I didn't know how to help him, and I didn't know how to soothe him when he was in pain, and I didn't know. But then when I really got into it, I thought, actually, I do know. I use reflexology all the time. I do it for adults. So obviously I'm then doing my reflexology treatments, and it makes a difference. And I brought out the book because I was having all of the people who were coming into my clinic, and they were having problems. I was thinking, I just need to share what works for me. Right. And so I ended up by putting it into a book just to help me in years before. Then when I started, when I was teaching, I'd been a bit cautious about teaching about foot reading because I thought I was a bit bonkers. But I'm a feeler, I'm a sensor. I know stuff, and I don't know how I know, but I know. So I'd been keeping my notes about foot reading for years, and I was ready to get this book together when the amazing Jane Sheehan launched onto the scene, and I'm like, oh, I'll just put that away then. So I didn't do anything about it. And then when I was lecturing at the University of Derby, and I've just seen that the Spiros and Sally and people who came on and talked to my students while I was lecturing, thank you so much for that. One of my students was just absolutely fabulous, and she went into foot reading big time, and she read every book that there was to know about foot reading, and then she asked me, can I read your book? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. And I said, right, I want your honest opinion. Anyway, her name is Kate David. Hi, Kate, if you ever watch this. Here you are, darling, on the back of the book. So that was why I actually did get to put that book in. Now, again, I talk about styles of books. So, again, I chose to do it, with feet and feet photos, and to say what I thought that, these things mean, and how you can, what you're looking at, and how, wait a minute, I'm in completely the wrong place for that. So what it is and what you can see and how to do it and what the grids are and how to do it, and just make a really basic book, because I get very confused if things get too complicated. So I wanted to be able to manage something which is great for adults and children, but keep it easy. For me, it's always about simple, always about simple. And then the last one that I did, as I say, was about emotions and putting all that information together. So it's about energy, it's about chakras, it's about what the meanings of the body is. And again, I brought that to be able to bring that together. So I know that some of you will be having questions that I've not answered. So I don't know whether, Paul, you're able to help me to see. Oh, Bev, emotion book is amazing. Thank you. Laura, I love your books. Oh, thank you. Books take a lot of writing. I absolutely encourage you to do it. I will help you. I will absolutely help you. If you want help writing a book, I will help you. I want you to get the message out into the world, whatever it is. So Emma Jane, hi Sue, my daughter's due in 3 to 4 weeks. What and when can I do with my first grandchild's tiny feet? So number one, Emma Jane, it's a given. You will adore your baby granddaughter. So you get on the love highway, done. Make sure you are very, very in and down and quiet and calm, as opposed to the excitement of a grandbaby. Yeah, just be really still and really quiet and really calm. One of the most beautiful, one of the easiest, one of the most gorgeous things that you can do, massively overlooked, is the simple heel hold. But you need to be in and down and centered and grounded yourself when you do that. Yeah. So let me just borrow Francine again. So just the stillest, gentlest, quietest, calmest, simple hold. Simplicity is often the best, isn't it? The solar plexus, which we did, just touching this lovely little solar plexus area just here, and you're going to do it on both. If you can get to both feet, and you might not be able to. And actually, you don't need to take off baby grows. You don't need to have it skin to skin. It's wonderful skin to skin, but don't panic. use what you get. The child will tell you have X seconds here, or you can have this foot but not this one. Always follow the child's lead. Yeah, and maybe you can do one hand and one foot. Yeah, and maybe you can just play around with it. Right, you don't even need to do a session. You can just do it as you're walking around or as you're doing. Lovely time to do it is around bath times and cuddle times. The one thing I would say about when you're working with babies and children is to be aware of the fact that most people, when they're holding a baby, are very, very, very likely at some point to touch their feet. So I need to get Francine to go. Right. If you know that you're a reflexologist, you just stroke their feet, but don't do reflexology because you don't have permission. Yeah, you must have permission from the parent before you do reflexology. You can't do reflexology in other people's children. It's not on. Yeah. So as a reflexologist, right, you can then, if the child's come to see you for reflexology, that's fine. But if you're working with your own children, that's fine. But if it's other people's children, can't do reflexology unless your parents have given you that permission. So this is appropriate. Let's just say, Emilio, what's your approach to children with autism? Oh, I'm so thrilled that you've said about that, because when you're talking about working with children with autism, there's so many different ways of working, and I've done so much work around this area and abroad of working with children who've got autism, and definitely check out Lorraine Senior with her amazing FRT program. And there's some talk about how you need to use a firmer touch, and there's some talk about no touch, and other times it's about a light touch. My own experience is they will tell you. They will absolutely tell you. Now, there's a school local to here where I've done a tremendous amount of work. It's all very private. It's been one-to-one. I've been going in for years. And it's absolutely fabulous. So all those of us who've worked with children will be able to tell you our energy is key. So we have to be okay before we go into the room, because our energy affects. And I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to show you relatively soon a lot of this energy work and what happens in the room and what happens to the energy of the people in the room. It's really fabulous. And then you can see what happens with reflex points as well. So if you're working with children who are on various different levels of the spectrum, let them tell you where you can work. So for some of them, it does need to be firmer, but for some, it needs to be right out here. Yeah, and they will tell you where it needs to be. So I hope that answers the question a little bit. So always work within what the child tells you. Let them tell you, and always make sure that you keep them informed, and make sure that you understand what their no cues are, which is I don't want it. Make sure you know that. Make sure, or please stop. So Chris, I know we've only got a short time to go now. My granddaughter, now aged almost 3, had open heart surgery in 2018. Is it okay to give her reflexology? Right. If your granddaughter has had open heart surgery and that was in 2018 and she's recovered well, what a beautiful thing to do for your granddaughter. Right. There's a beautiful point which is called the peace point. And I don't have a lot of time to go into that, but so can you see on my chart, can you see this here that says the peace point? You can see this tiny weeny little heart point just here, might be too close, sorry. That little point there. And the way to be able to do it, and it's the most incredible. I've done a lot of work in hospitals in America, and if one of my friends called Wendy was here, she would be going, this is brilliant, but the peace point is the one. So the point is about there. Yeah. So in adults, they get that crease that goes around. Let me get the picture back again. Here we go. So can you see the line? I don't know whether you can see that very well. Right, and then it's just that little point just there. So it's the tenderest, most loving touch, but it's called the peace point, and do not touch it unless you are at peace. And then you just touch and you hold for as long as you hold, and you connect as long as you connect, and you release whenever you release. So the peace point is one that I feel was gifted to me overnight. I very often don't know things when I wake up, and when I go to bed and I wake up in the morning. So I want to say a big, big thank you. I haven't managed to answer everybody's questions. I will come back to you all personally, and I will answer your questions. We can carry on talking over all sorts. It's wonderful to be in touch. So office@surix.com. Masses of information in the Surix Academy, surix.com/academy. Put the code in healthy to get a free month. And I really want to say that this has been an incredible experience during this incredible time. And thank you to Sally and to everybody. I haven't managed to watch everybody and to answer everybody, but I promise that I will get back to everybody. And I love you and I wish you so much. So energy follows thought. I wish you love. And thank you so much. Bye bye, everybody. Thank you.